We do have the NFL Combine starting next week, and we got a lot of stuff going on here today with the franchise tag opening. The window is open, and all signs are pointing towards Tony Pollard, getting the franchise tag from the Cowboys. Most of you know by now, it's tough these days to find a team that wants to give a running back that much of the salary cap. I guess it wouldn't be a horrible mistake because you don't know what else you got and it's only 1 year. But that's the best compromise I can make, because I'm not trying to be too negative about this. It does jam me up.
Yeah, it takes me right off too, Dawson. I'm right there with you. The biggest problem, I think, is we all agree the biggest issue, other than Dak throwing interceptions against San Francisco, was the lack of weaponry. Yeah. And that you have on your entire offense. So you're going to let one of two legitimate bona fide weapons that you feel like the offense has, Lamb and Pollard, you're going to let one of them walk out the door. But I think the circumstances dictate it. It sucks, man, because we already, with Pollard, need more weapons, and you're going to let him leave. But big picture, I think it's the right move, and a lot of that has to do with the idea that he's coming off an injury. Ligaments were torn. We just did this thing with Michael Gallup, dude. And even if Pollard does get back to himself, how long into the season is that going to take? Are you going to step into the season week 1 and you get Tony Pollard of old? Probably not. Week 4, week 6, we're going to get to Thanksgiving. I don't know. I have no idea. But I'm not spending $10 million on I have no idea.
Sure.
But I have to acknowledge that I have no weapons, and this sucks.
You have to trust your scouts to find you 2 runners. I understand you're talking about losing both Zeke and Pollard, but it doesn't take an expedition to find running backs that can produce if you find holes. Like, the secret to the run game is how good Biotish, Pollard, and Tyler Smith were, along with Zach Martin. That's why your running game succeeded.
Don't forget Steele.
Yes,
Yeah,
I definitely meant Steele. He's a huge part of it. And the combo blocks with him and Zach Martin were their bread and butter. Yeah. He goes away. What did Tony Pollard do the rest of the year? Yeah. To me, that tells you a running back can't do it. It takes offensive linemen, and then a lot of different running backs can do it, Wolchuk.
Yeah, and I think you also have, you can combine this with the free agent class, which is really, really deep as well. Like, I think that's a great point. Do you want to spend $10 million on Tony Pollard, and you're wondering, is he really back to the Tony Pollard that we loved and we're hoping we're getting by Halloween coming off the injury? Is that your best way to spend that money? Or would I be better spent looking at a free agent running back and giving him $4 million and drafting a guy? Is that the best way to retool my backfield? As much as we love Tony Pollard, and he's a guy that doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on the tires, so I'd be more open to maybe giving that guy a second contract or franchise tagging him. But the injury here has really made me rethink this. And I think you just need to move on and go ahead and restock your backfield and have 2 new backs next year.
I would challenge somebody in the league to pay him, is what I would do. I wouldn't tag him. And it's not because of the injury or anything like that. I just wouldn't tag him because of what I've seen in the draft, what I've seen in pro free agency. And the fact of the matter is, I think people are not going to be willing to pay it back. Now, I could be dead balls wrong about this, but I'm going to challenge somebody else to pay him. And if somebody else pays him, I'm going to be okay, because my backup plan is, like you talk about, pro free agency or the draft. I've seen enough guys that do things that lead me to believe that they're complete backs. Run, block, catch guys. And Tony Pollard did a great thing. It took you 4 years to figure it out, but I'm willing to say, I'm going to let you go and see what you can get in the open market.
Yeah.
If you want to circle back with me after this, by all means. But I'm going to make somebody pay him is what I'm going to do.
The injury thing's quite a bit of risk when you talk about repairing ankle ligaments. Like, Dak didn't have the flexibility and the fluidity of motion, and now I don't know what it cost him, a quarter step, a half step, but he's not as quick. Now, his was a total catastrophic need to, but the ligament portion of it, needing to repair those ligaments after a sprain, that's because they've become incredibly frayed. And the surgical process to kind of help those heal is very traumatic for that area of the body. Mine never recovered. I had a similar surgery to what Tony Pollard had. Now, I had a bad doctor, probably compared to what he has.
Yeah, but you had better genetics than Pollard.
I didn't do all of the physical therapy that he will, but every doctor that I've talked to after that surgery said, you should have tried harder to not have that surgery. Because once you repair the ligaments, all kinds of weird things happen in that area that aren't natural. all the other things that they repair, the knee, like you get a really clean new ACL from elsewhere in your body, and the way that it's strung together, that ligament area in your ankle, it's like a mesh, that kind of comes together and goes around your foot. And as they try to repair it, there's consequences to that can make it very difficult to get the same range of motion, balance, strength, and burst. And I don't know. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll be 97% of what you were, but you ain't getting back to 100. And it's never going to be the same like other injuries allow you to. So I would just sincerely ask the Cowboys, to challenge themselves to find runners. We have so many problems on this team. You need multiple corners, wide receiver, run stuffing defensive tackle. You saw what Hankins did. You need another one of those. You can't depend on day 3 of the draft. You might need an inside linebacker. And you can find running backs even in the undrafted ranks, I think, that could come in and produce if your offensive line is good. So there's a lot of reasons to not do it, but so far all signs are pointing to the Cowboys will.
Well, and that's going to be hugely disappointing. But to Broadus's point, I was reading Barnwell's article in ESPN, and he says kind of a similar thing of like, if you let Pollard test the market, he's like, man, I could see this coming back where Pollard's getting 1 year, $6 million.
I'm gonna play that game. Okay. I'm just gonna let it and see what happens. And if he's good enough to where, he's a really good player.
Sure.
If somebody pays him, fine, I'll move on.
Man, the more we flesh it out, the more it feels it's like as tough of it as a decision as it kind of feels like it is, because how good Pollard was this year. It's really black and white. It's almost borderline malpractice. You see the proof in the pudding of winning Super Bowls and not paying that position.
Yeah.
And then doing it with a guy who's coming off an injury and doing it in an offseason where we feel like it's the best running back offseason ever.
Yeah.
From a draft and free agent standpoint, like just go through that and say the decision's made.
Yep.
You're not getting $10 million and we can replace you in 5 seconds, as sad as it is.
And there are running backs in this draft that have a similar type of skill set in the later round, day 3, that you could get and that you can mold into a similar type of player.